I don't think I necessarily wanted to run a business, but I think I wanted to do something different and maybe something that wasn't in the normal kind of structure of things. I used to play hotels with my parents. They'd spend hours checking in and out, poor things. And then with my best friend when I was 11, we decided to start a dating agency, but mainly because we wanted to see who everybody fancied, not really because we wanted to make any money. I don't think we made any money. So I think I've always been more interested in ideas than perhaps, business and finance. And my parents would have been really staggered if I'd gone into the city, become a lawyer, become an accountant. So I was lucky that I was always encouraged to do different things. I guess my motivation was quite opportunistic in everything I've done. I was lucky when I left university. I met somebody that I very much liked, and they gave me a job in their growing small company. It was a consulting company. It was where I met Brent. It was Brent who had the idea for lastminute.com. So, life linked up. And I've never really had a grand plan. I've just always kind of jumped into things that I've thought looked interesting and been lucky that I've been able to take the risks and they've paid off. Well, Brent's idea came purely from one thing, which is he was frequently trying to arrange everything at the last minute, take ladies away on weekends, just before he met his lovely wife. And he was trying to pull all these different things together, and he just said, oh, this is a blooming nightmare. So he had this very clever idea about the kind of economics of what availability was left by hotels and airlines, and if you could sell it unbranded, you could get great deals for the customer. And he started working on it when we were working together at Spectrum. He asked me, as I was second choice, actually. There was someone else who turned it down. And actually, when he first told me, I think I said it was a terrible idea, but then quickly I realised it was a spectacularly clever idea. And we worked on it together. We left our various jobs and we worked in his flat for 6 weeks, writing our business plan. And then we raised the money and then we got going. So it was pretty fast when we'd had the cash in the bank. We worked plumbing hard in those early days, just constantly trying to sell the business, get people involved, build partnerships, all of the things you'd expect. We'd come from a background of media and telecoms, and it was just as the web was emerging, and I'd started working in this kind of whole bigger area in about 1994. And by 1997, 98, when we chipped off to do lastminute.com, the web was just beginning to gain traction. There was no Google, there was no Amazon was just launching in the UK. eBay was obviously out there, but I'm not sure it had a UK presence. So it was pretty early, but because we'd come from a sector where we were looking all the time at how TV companies should address the web, how telecoms companies should address the web, there was no question in our minds that this was a pure online application. And actually, that was why Brent's idea was clever, because it was unachievable without the internet. So it was completely online and completely focused around new technology. I don't think it was really a milestone for the web. I think it was a milestone for lastminute.com, and it kind of marked a point in time because it marked this enormous excitement, and I guess people used it for their own different means. People that were sceptical said, oh, there we go, it showed that that company was never worth what it was worth. For us, it marked an ability to put the company in a very secure position financially and then be able to get on with just building it and growing it and getting to the point we knew we could get it to. Personally, it was obviously a totally extraordinary time, and my megalomania went crazy. I was suddenly on the TV all the time and in the press, and people would stop me in the street and talk to me, and it was, I was running a weird little internet company. That was pretty strange. So on all those different levels, it was kind of interesting. But I think on reflection, lastminute.com benefited from all the good things about that. It also suffered from all the bad things that came with it. And I think for a long time there was a disconnect between valuation that undoubtedly got too hyped and undoubtedly was kind of unreasonable at one point, and actual business growth, because we were still growing phenomenally fast. Even when the share price collapsed, everybody said, oh, that's the end of the company. It wasn't at all. Customers were growing, revenues were growing, profit was growing, most importantly. I actually said I will stand on my desk and sing 19 when it hit 19p. I didn't. Actually, I was chickened out. Well, no, I don't think I was prepared for the backlash, because why would you be necessarily? I'm hopefully quite a realist. I'm quite a calm person, despite being excitable on one level. And I, always knew that it was a game that you're fueling. One was fueling the other, and you're selling the business. And, you do it with a aware of what's going on. But I don't think I'd appreciated the vitriol of people about the money that they'd invested in the shares. And while I absolutely accept that it's very disappointing if the share price goes down, we were still working blooming hard to make it go up again. So I got probably 3,500, 4,000 emails in the 2 or 3 weeks after the flotation, ranging from bitch to worse. And that surprised me. And I often think that was because email was such an easy thing to fire off and people get kind of fueled up by the Daily Mail headline. I quite often cross-referenced whether or not those people even had shares in the company, and they didn't. So that was surprising, but I think I weathered it all right. You just get on with it and, don't really think about that. Think about trying to get the business into a good place. We were very busy, We weren't sitting around flicking through the paper thinking, oh, look at me in that double-page spread in the Daily Mail. Not at all. We were just working hard. We were talking to airlines, talking to technology partners, recruiting people, getting tickets to customers, trying to sort out terrible cock-ups that there have been with theatre tickets being collected. It was normal business stuff. If in some small way I inspired other women that they could do it, fantastic. Does it make me think that the press still, need to characterise women in a particular way in business? Yeah, of course I do. But I played it as much as they played it, I guess. In 2003, been doing it for six years, and I wasn't as effective in the business, I think, as I had been. It was important that it got beyond me being so associated with the brand, and of course Brent was as well, but I think partly just being a woman and all those things we talked about. And I really wanted to see if I could survive outside lastminute.com personally, but also for the business to move on and enter a different phase. So it was tough deciding to go, but at the same time, it hadn't been my idea. I'd absolutely loved every single minute of it, and I wanted to give both of us room to breathe outside, I guess. He knew that, I was, and he loves it when I say this, I'm 5 years younger than him. I wanted to do other things in my life, and so he was always expecting it. When I actually sat down and said, I think it's going to be in the next 12 months, he was completely cool and 100% supportive, and he's one of the loveliest people in the world, so I'm very lucky with my partner there. I can't imagine a world without Brent, and he is a very unusual person, super bright, but also extremely kind and very, very driven. And he challenges me to keep going and keep moving on, and what are you doing, all this stuff, which I love. And I value his opinion hugely about my business now, but much more broadly, kind of all the other different interesting things I'm involved in. And I'm very honoured that he still valued my opinion to put me on the board of mydeco.com. So we're still pretty close, even though we don't see each other 95 hours a day. We always had a joke that if we'd been Alan Sugar in The Apprentice, which we actually were asked to do, we'd have gone, you're fired. I'd have had to say, you're fired. And then he'd have said, but we've got a job for you somewhere else in the organisation. I'd have been hitting him like that because he was always too nice. Although he could be very tough, he was too nice. So yeah, we did obviously have roles. I mean, in the end, he was in charge because it was his idea, and I would sort of do what he told me. But it was more nebulous than that, and I was, a bit more responsible for the kind of people, the brand, the operations, and he was more responsible for technology, and he was just fantastic at spotting web trends. So he really stayed on the technical kind of edge of what lastminute.com should be. I think that technology's got a lot better. Technology's still a headache, but it's got a lot easier, and there's a lot more you can kind of rip and steal and use open source and all of those things. And I also think that, no surprises, but the trend for kind of building a big destination that says, right, come here and get our products and services, also it seems very old-fashioned. It's much more about pushing that out, building out that network, syndicating your things, being in the places where people are. So the homepage and all those kind of things become very different and much less important in a funny kind of way. Now it's about how the web is ingrained way beyond single destination sites or just retail, but across the political spectrum, across kind of enormous interaction that individuals can have with their public services, across education, across retail, of course, and all the other things. So I think that's very exciting, and I think that now, if I was starting lastminute.com with Brent, it would look very different, and we would start it in a very different way. And that, to me, is what's incredible about the web. It moves so fast that if I take my eye off it for 6 months, I wouldn't be an expert in any way, shape, or form anymore.